The Uncharted games are some of the best action-adventure games you can play, but they have one big problem. Each individual game progresses the story in mostly chronological order, so while you might want to dive in right with Uncharted 4 or Lost Legacy because they have the best graphics, you'll be missing out on dozens of hours of lore and backstory. And that's key to understanding Nathan Drake's journey from carefree thief to married man with morals. So whether you're here for a quick refresher of the series or it's your first time adventuring with Nate, here's every Uncharted game explained in chronological order. Set roughly 2 years before the events of the first PlayStation 3 game, Golden Abyss finds a younger Nathan Drake in the middle of a Panamanian archaeological dig. He is partnered with Jason Dante, a man whose greed far outweighs his expertise. They're investigating a massacre of Spanish explorers from the 17th century, which leads them to Marissa Chase, the granddaughter of the late archaeologist Vincent Perez. The core mystery involves the Sete Cidades, or the Seven Cities of Gold, and a secret sect of the Catholic Church called the Secta de los Siete. I know, I'm completely butchering this. As Nate and Marissa traverse the ruins, they're pursued by Roberto Guerin, a deposed revolutionary general who wants the gold to fund his return to power. The climax occurs in the Golden Abyss itself. However, the legendary treasure is a subversion of the trope. The gold isn't cursed by magic, it's highly radioactive due to the local uranium deposits. The ancient Seven Cities residents died of radiation poisoning, not divine retribution. In a moment of early moral clarity, Nate and Marissa destroy the site to prevent the toxic gold from entering the world market, marking the first time Nate chooses the greater good over a massive payday. The saga truly begins with Nathan Drake and journalist Elena Fisher recovering the lead coffin of Sir Francis Drake from the ocean floor off the coast of Panama in the first game, Drake's Fortune. Inside the coffin, they find not a body, but a diary that provides the location of El Dorado, the legendary city of gold. Nate and his mentor, Victor Sullivan, ditch Elena to avoid the legal complications of her film crew and head into the Amazon rainforest. They discover that El Dorado is not a city, but a massive multi-ton solid gold idol, a physical manifestation of greed that has driven explorers mad for centuries. They soon find themselves hunted by Gabriel Roman and his ruthless lieutenant, Atok Navarro, to whom Sully owes a massive debt. After a series of betrayals, including a narrow escape from a Nazi U-boat stranded in a jungle waterfall, the journey leads to a forgotten island in the Pacific. Here, the story takes a dark, horror-inspired turn. The idol of El Dorado is revealed to be a sarcophagus containing an ancient airborne mutagenic plague. The descendants inhabiting the island, pale, feral creatures, are the mutated remnants of the Spanish colonists who opened the sarcophagus centuries ago. Navarro, realizing the idol's potential as a biological weapon rather than a mere treasure, kills Roman and attempts to airlift the statue away. Nate manages to tether the statue to Navarro's helicopter, dragging both the villain and the cursed treasure to the bottom of the ocean, effectively burying the plague forever. In Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, Nate is pulled back into the life by an old associate, Harry Flynn, and a former flame, Chloe Fraser. They plan to steal an oil lamp from a Turkish museum that once belonged to Marco Polo. The lamp reveals a hidden map showing that Polo's lost fleet wasn't simply lost to a storm, but it was carrying a map to the Sintamani Stone and the hidden city of Shambhala. Flynn betrays Nate, leaving him to rot in a Turkish prison for months until Sully and Chloe finally orchestrate his release, and the trail leads to a war-torn Nepal where Nate reunites with Elena Fisher, who is tracking a war criminal named Zoran Lazarevich. The chase moves across the Himalayas, culminating in the iconic pulse-pounding train wreck that leaves Nate wounded and freezing on a mountain ledge. Nate is rescued by a Tibetan villager named Tenzin, and through a series of trials involving ancient monastery ruins and Yeti-like guardians, they find the entrance to Shambhala. Once inside the pristine, sapphire-coloured city, they discover the Sintamani Stone is actually petrified resin from the Tree of Life, Lanzarovich intends to consume the raw sap of the tree to become an unstoppable, immortal dictator. After a grueling battle against the juiced up villain in the heart of the crumbling city, Nate defeats a mutated Lanzarovich and escapes as Shambhala is reclaimed by the shifting glaciers. This chapter in the series explores the origins of the bond between Nate and Sully, revealing that their partnership was forged in fire. 20 years prior to Uncharted 3, a young orphan Nate tried to steal a cipher disk belonging to Sir Francis Drake in Cartagena, Colombia, where he first encountered the man who would become his surrogate father. In the present, they're hunted by Catherine Marlowe and her right-hand man Talbot, leaders of a centuries-old secret society that has manipulated world history from the shadows. They seek the Atlantis of the Sands, also known as the Iram of the Pillars, a city lost deep in the Rub al Khali desert. Nate's obsession with proving his self-proclaimed lineage leads him through the streets of London, the chateaux of France, and the citadels of Syria, eventually resulting in a harrowing cargo plane crash that leaves him stranded in the desert for days. Upon finding the city, the deception of the title is revealed. The city was never a source of gold, it was a prison for a brass vessel containing a powerful hallucinogenic agent. King Solomon had cast the vessel into the city's water supply to contain demons. Marlowe wants the water to create a weapon of mass hallucination to control the world through fear, and during the final confrontation, the city's foundations fail and it begins to sink into the shifting sands of the desert. Marlowe is swallowed by quicksand and Nate narrowly escapes, finally accepting that his relationship with Sully and Elena is more valuable than any historical vindication or ancestral proof. In Uncharted 4, years after retiring to a domestic life with Elena, Nate's world is upended by the return of his brother Sam, whom Nate believed had died in a Panamanian prison 15 years earlier. Sam claims he needs to find Henry Avery's lost pirate treasure, estimated at being worth $400 million, to pay off a debt to a drug lord named Alcazar. Nate, unable to resist the pull of his past, lies to Elena and joins Sam and Sully on a global trek to find Libertalia, a pirate utopia founded by Avery and Thomas II. The quest takes them from a high-stakes auction in Italy to the plains of Madagascar and finally to a remote jungle-choked island in the Indian Ocean. The truth is eventually revealed to be far more tragic. Sam was never in danger from a drug lord. He was freed by Rafa Adler, a wealthy entitled rival of the Drakes, and furthermore, Nate and Sam are not actually Drakes at all. They are the sons of Mary Morgan, a brilliant historian. They adopted the Drake name as boys to hide from the police and honour their mother's legacy of exploration. In the ruins of Avery's treasure-laden ship, Nate finds the skeletons of the pirate captains who poisoned each other over the gold centuries ago. He chooses to save Sam from the burning wreckage rather than the treasure, finally breaking his destructive cycle of obsession with riches. The story ends with a jump into the future, showing Nate and Elena as successful legal archaeologists with a daughter called Cassie, who's beginning to learn of her parents' adventures through the artifacts they've kept. Taking place after the conclusion of the main series, this story follows Chloe Fraser as she travels to the western Ghats of India in search of the legendary Tusk of Ganesh. Recognizing the sheer scale of the task, she partners with Nadine Ross, the pragmatic former leader of the Shoreline mercenary group. Their mission is complicated by Asav, a ruthless and genocidal warlord who seeks the tusk not for its historical value, but as a powerful cultural symbol to legitimize a bloody civil war he intends to spark across the region. The journey is deeply personal for Chloe, serving as a late-stage reconciliation with her heritage. Her father, an archaeologist who vanished years prior, had dedicated his life to finding the Tusk, and Chloe's trek through the Hoysala Empire's ruins is as much about understanding his sacrifice as it is about the hunt itself. As the two women navigate the treacherous mountain terrain, their relationship evolves from a tense, purely professional arrangement into a genuine friendship forged in combat and mutual respect. In the heart of a forgotten capital, they discover a profound historical truth. The Hoysala did not lose the Tusk through incompetence or conquest, they intentionally hid it within a complex series of trials to ensure that it would never be used as a tool of political destruction. In a significant departure from the self-serving Drake philosophy that often defined earlier adventures in the series, Chloe decides to hand the artifact over to the Ministry of Culture for public preservation rather than selling it to the highest bidder. This selfless act prevents Asav's planned insurrection and signals a new, more altruistic era for this series' treasure hunters, proving that adventure can exist without the stain of greed.
Underneath all the bravado, you're just a sad little boy with delusions of grandeur.
You'd risk your lives, and for what? Let's finish this!